Hello there. In this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit about cancer and its relation to cell division that we learned about in the previous lesson. This picture is one I took near Thunder Bay, and it is a memorial to Terry Fox. And Terry Fox was a young Canadian man who lost his leg to cancer back in the 80s. And what he did was he was an athletic guy, and he ran with his artificial leg a marathon every day. It was called the Marathon of Hope, and it was for raising awareness and money too for cancer research. The cancer came back, and this is as far as he got. This memorial marks the place near Thunder Bay, so about halfway across Canada. Amazing accomplishment. And he did just what he set out to. He raised a huge amount of awareness and fundraising that continues to this day for cancer research. So as you learned, the cell cycle is what controls the different stages of growth and replication of cells. And at each phase of the cell cycle, there's this thing that's called a checkpoint. And a checkpoint is some chemicals that trigger the cell to know to go to the next phase of the cycle. So if you remember in interphase, there was like a growth phase. And at some point here, there would be, there'd have to be enough growth, there'd have to be enough nutrition, enough nutrients diffusing in and out of the cell so that there would be a chemical that would trigger the nucleus to tell the cell to go into the next phase, which was the synthesis phase, making DNA, and then another phase where there's more growth, and then starting mitosis. So at each one of these points, there'll be some chemical trigger that tells the cell to go to the next point of the cell cycle. So that is how cells normally work, where there is fairly strict control over whether or not the cell proceeds from one stage to another based on whether or not there's the correct environmental and internal conditions for the cell to do so. So these checkpoints are what sends a cell from one phase of the cell cycle to another. And critically right here, where it's going to enter mitosis, is where the division occurs. And this is often the result of external stimulus, right? Chemicals that signal the cell from outside. If you think of when you get a cut, external signals are going to come to the cells that are near the cut. They're going to ask them to multiply and divide so that you can make some extra cells to fill in or to replace the ones that are damaged. But what can happen is that you can get malfunctions of these checkpoints, and so even if there isn't damage that should be triggering this multiplication, you can get unchecked multiplication, which you can end up producing a whole bunch of cells that don't need to be there and that aren't functioning within the organism as required. The other problem can be if the cells don't live out their normal lifespan. So apoptosis is a fancy word for programmed cell death. Cells are only supposed to last so long in a given role, and then they are replaced by newer ones that function optimally. And so if there's a problem with that process too, that can lead to a whole bunch of cells or extra cell division that's not needed in a given area. So the outcome of all this unchecked cell division can be what we call a tumor. A tumor is a whole bunch of cells that have divided but aren't serving a purpose within the organism. They're just extra cells that sort of in the way, and they're not doing the job of the tissue or the organ that they're part of. If you have what's called a benign tumor, that means that those cells, while a nuisance, aren't really affecting the other cells around it. And as long as these normal cells here can do their job, well, then they're not that big of a problem. They can be removed, and you can go on with your life as normal. The problem is if there is some influence of the tumor cells on the surrounding cells. If they're starting to give off chemicals that cause the surrounding cells to not function properly, then that's called a malignant tumor, and that is a condition that we call cancer. That's when the tumor cells are causing problems for the other cells in the organism. So when you get tumor cells that are causing problems for the other cells that are nearby, that's cancer. And there are different ways of grouping cancer types. And of course, one is where it shows up in the body. of the creature that has it, and we're going to focus on people here. So we can have brain cancers, esophagus cancer, lung cancers, stomach cancers, kidney cancers, colorectal cancers, skin cancers anywhere, breast cancers, gallbladder cancer, pancreas cancer, prostate, testicular, ovarian. And that's just a small sample, over 200 different types of cancers, what I read, that have been recorded and that they're looking for ways to treat. Another way of organizing cancers is by the types of cells that are affected. And so we have a couple different ones here that I found that you've probably heard of. Carcinoma. Carcinoma is when lining type cells like your skin or around your organs are affected. Leukemia. These are the parts of your immune system that attack foreign substances. Lymphomas, another part of your immune system where the lymph collects and interacts with the rest of the body, so places like your spleen and testes in men. Sarcomas, these are connective tissues like cartilage or muscle or blood vessels. And myelomas, and this is places where antibodies are formed, another part of our immune system. So if you've known someone who has been affected by cancer, you might have heard the term metastasis or metastasizing, and that is when the cancer moves from a place where it may have originated to another place in the body. And so this is a bad thing because the cancer is spreading to other tissues and cells than where it originated. So it can do that usually through the circulatory system or the lymphatic system. And so what you'll have is, say, a cancer that may have started in the stomach. You call that the primary one. If it metastasizes, it can transfer somewhere else, like the lungs, and you end up with a secondary cancer. So that is an unfortunate progress of the disease. So obviously cancer is something that we want to have less of in our communities and in our families. And so understanding the things that are definitely related to cancer and can cause cancer, and knowing the things that are not shown to have any relation to cancer can be helpful in living a lifestyle that minimizes our risk. So I got some of these off of this website, United Kingdom Cancer Research website. And what they found was some of the main ones that can cause cancer are things like smoking and secondhand smoke, drinking excessively, and unsafe sex related to cancer, definitely. Things that there isn't any evidence that cause cancer that some people think there is, or there have been anecdotes about. Things like electromagnetic frequencies. So there you might hear of some people living under power lines or might be more susceptible to cancers, but there hasn't been any evidence to show that. Genetically modified foods. Of course, we've only been doing this for a little while, but so far no evidence that genetically modified foods are cancer causing. Microwave ovens, plastic bottles. Some of those chemicals might be considered dangerous, but so far the research shows no direct link. Stress and food additives, also not scientifically shown to cause cancer, so you can relax a little around those things. So finding out if you have cancer, of course, is a big first step to getting some treatment that can save your life. And so there's a bunch of different ways that cancer can be found, depending on where it is in the body. And of course, having regular checkups and talking to your doctor about anything that you find unusual is important there. But some of the things that are used to be able to find cancers once there's a possibility that it might be there or some other clue would be, of course, physical exams. Some tumor cells can cause lumps that you can feel, and that'd be a first step to diagnosing a cancer. Lab tests, so some of those checkpoint chemicals or other chemicals that tumor cells produce can be found by taking blood samples or other samples. Imaging, right? So pictures from X-rays or MRI can show cancerous cells that way. Other types of pictures, endoscope. So this is like when they put like a camera down your throat or up the other end, and you can see if there are some cancer cells in those locations. And of course, a biopsy, and this is where they take like a little sample of a tissue and do tests on it back in a lab as well. So those are some common ways to find out if cancer is occurring. Okay, so once cancer has been diagnosed, then a treatment will be assigned to address the cancer and hopefully get rid of it. So there's a whole bunch of different treatments, and they'll depend on the type of cancer because there's a whole bunch of different types of cancer. So a couple of treatments that you might have heard of course, surgery. So sometimes this is all that's needed. If you can cut out and get all of the tumor cells, then you've treated the cancer, and hopefully the person could go on to have a normal life. Stem cell use is sometimes used, I'm told, for bone cancers. What you can do is basically kill all the cells in the bone marrow and replace them with stem cells, and then you get a chance of beating that type of cancer. Immunotherapy, it's basically boosting or enhancing a person's natural immune system so that their immune system can address the cancer. Chemotherapy, this uses special drugs that affect different cancers and cancer cells. And of course, they have side effects that are going to affect other cells as well. But what you hope is that the treatment causes more problems for the cancer cells than it does for the regular ones. And finally, radiation, which is use of really high energy radiation like gamma rays in order to damage cancer cells, damage their DNA, basically kill them. And what you do, similar to the surgery thing, is basically kill all the cancerous cells and hopefully not harm the surrounding cells so that the person can recover. The great thing is that the success rate for cancer treatments keeps improving. And so this is somewhere where I think we'll continue to see success in the future, thankfully. So thanks to people like Terry Fox for raising awareness and continuing to support these types of activities. Hopefully we'll see less and less cancer in the future.